Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. Happy Saturday. And guess what?
We have an early trade to announce.
That's right. We have a trade special weekend edition of the NBA Front Office Show because we're going to finish off 2023 with a deal. The Knicks and Raptors wake up the NBA trade market with a big deal. OG Anunoby heading to New York. Keith, how pumped were you when you got that notification?
Oh man, I was fired up. I had to check, even though I got the notification on my phone, I still checked like 10 times to make sure it was real because I was also on TweetDeck as it came through. And I don't know why, but like I had this like fear of, did this really happen? So I was a little bit nervous with that. But man, incredible. Like I love when they come out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
We know there are going to be trades on trade deadline week. Like this is 6 straight years we've had a trade happen within the first couple weeks of trade season opening up, and this is probably one of the bigger ones. The James Harden trade to the Nets was obviously the biggest one we've had, but this one's right up there. I mean, this is a really fascinating trade for both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely is. Like you said, when you get that notification, there's that little jolt of adrenaline, like, whoa, something big happened. And that certainly was the case with this one.
All
All
triggered
right,
by you making a run to the store, my friend.
I know. It never fails. If I go on vacation, if I leave the house, apparently that's when things happen. So here's the deal. This was all broken by Adrian Wojnarowski. Initially, I know Shams Charania filled in some details, but Raptors send OG Anunoby to the Knicks for a package that includes RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, and I believe there's a second round pick in there.
Yep.
Now.
So I've got the full. You want me to break it down?
Yeah, if you have the full thing, because I know there's a couple of pieces like Precious Achua and stuff.
And I know you're just literally walked in the door down to do this. All right, so the Knicks will get OG Anunoby, Precious Achua, and Malachi Flynn. The Raptors will get RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, in the 2024 Pistons second round pick. Now, let's also, just so we put it out there, trade's not done. Yeah, right. This could expand. It could be bigger. There could be other pieces involved. The Knicks will have to waive a player to get there, to be in compliance, to even complete this trade. So that'll be a piece of news that will come eventually. But the big headline pieces here are OG Anunoby for RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley. That's the big takeaway for both sides on this one.
So I guess let's start with the Raptors. We've been talking about this for weeks now. Will the Raptors finally make a move? Well, here we go. They did it. What the motivation behind getting rid of OG Anunoby? Is this a sign that they didn't want to be the team to pay Anunoby their next contract? Was it just time to part ways? And then what do you think about the return Toronto got here?
Yeah, I think this is a little bit of a rebalancing trade for the Raptors. And we'll see what happens with a guy like Pascal Siakam, because maybe he still gets moved, maybe he doesn't. But what this does is RJ Barrett is really a guard, right? So that gives them a guard instead of shoehorning the 3 forwards into weird positions. The last couple of games they've started Scotty Barnes at point guard, but what he really is like a playmaking forward. So that gives them RJ Barrett, and now they have their point guard of the future in Emmanuel Quickley, because presumably you made this trade knowing we've got his restricted free agent rights. We're going to be the team that signs him. So you get 2 starters for 1, and it rebalances you a little bit, and you get the best second round pick in the draft, because I'm assuming Detroit's probably going to finish with the worst record. Although Fake You says, breaking news, Pistons, you're going to get a weakened Raptors team tonight. Absolutely, because Anunoby won't play tonight. So maybe tonight's the night Detroit gets off the schneid and breaks the losing streak. But
our buddy Luca Rosano is already nervous that the Raptors were going to be the team to break the streak. Now it becomes more likely with OG Anunoby unavailable, as well as Precious Achua. And but this is Malachi Flynn. Sure. Yeah. So this is interesting that the Raptors, they didn't cash in Anunoby and get picks though. That right. I mean, they did get, I guess when we look at that pick, it's about the least second round pick you can get, right? You can almost call this a super late first round pick because it's probably going to be the 31st pick in the draft. So you're getting that at worst, I mean, 32nd. So you're getting this pick that is more valuable than it appears on the surface in terms of being a second rounder. So that's something. But then you're getting guys like RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly. These are not pieces that you get to necessarily tear down everything. No, you're getting guys that can help you win right now. So that begs the question, what does this mean now for Pascal Siakam?
Yeah, I think this is the sign of a soft reset a little bit for Toronto. And what this opens up is, do they now say, all right, we rebalance our roster. We're going to move forward with presumably the rest of the season, a starting group of Pirtle, Siakam, Barnes, RJ Barrett, and Emmanuel Quickly. Then we've got guys like Dennis Schroeder in the fold, leading the second unit. They've got other players on that second unit that they like Chris Boucher, Jalen McDaniels, players like that. So you could go into a spot where you really do say, all right, you know what? Maybe there was all that rumors of signing Siakam to an extension and all those things. Maybe that does happen now. Maybe they feel like this rebalanced us enough that we feel good. We can make a move like that. Or I will say they could trade Pascal Siakam still in another type of move that is just another soft reset, rebalance type of trade where you get guys who fit. They got not, I don't want to say younger in this trade because they certainly didn't get younger, but they didn't take on a bunch of older players. They didn't take on just a bunch of draft picks. So they really do give themselves give themselves a lot of optionality now moving forward that it didn't really feel like they had 15, 20, 30 minutes ago, or whatever it was.
Yeah, and so in that sense, while OG Anunoby is a good player, I do kind of like what the Raptors got here in return. I think this makes sense, especially if they are not going for that full, we're going to tear it down. This is probably your best case scenario. If you're choosing the path, hey, we don't just want draft capital, we want pieces that can help us win. These are guys that I think can help you do that. Let's jump over to the Knicks side, though. Mr. Easley said, how can you not love the NBA, right? The gift that keeps on giving here in the NBA. This is another thing too. We've got was RJ Barrett, was it a RJ Barrett report in the finals? They said there's a lawsuit right now between the Knicks and the Raptors. Doesn't that make this a little bit add a little extra layer to this?
It really does. Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. I've already seen a bunch of people tweeting should have just settled that lawsuit in there. Maybe that's why they threw in the second round pick. And I've seen a little bit of that in there too. And we'll see. But yeah, it's definitely funny. The Knicks will waive
Daquan Jeffries
to create the roster space. So once we're down to which player is getting waived, I'm gonna guess this trade goes through today or tomorrow.
Yeah,
we're there. This trade is gonna finish up, so that's gonna be where this lands. So, yeah, I'll say one more thing with the Raptors too. There's a thought process. I've already seen some people floating it out there. Did they get the best player in the deal in Emmanuel Quickly? A lot of people love Emmanuel Quickly and feel like all he's needed is a bigger opportunity to start and to be a big time guy to really break out, and maybe that'll come, maybe it won't, we'll see. But there is that at least thought process out there. Now, if we go over to the Knicks side, which is where you're going to go,
let me throw in the Raptors had just moved Dennis Schroeder to the bench. I think that's important to note too. So they had already kind of cleared the way for Emmanuel Quickly to come in and take over. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Knicks.
Gary Trent will either get traded later. That's very similar to the Siakam to me, or he'll just come off the bench for this team. You're now legit 7 guys deep and maybe a couple more. And that's RJ Barrett's got the Canada connection as well, which is a great call. Maybe being home, he unlocks that full Maple Jordan status.
There it is.
Off he
there
goes,
it is.
right?
I thought that was Andrew Wiggins was Maple Jordan.
Yeah, I think it's been applied to every good Canadian player.
Every Canadian player ever.
Yeah, right. I'd like to. RJ Barrett gets a lot of grief for what he isn't, without a lot of love for what he is as a player. So I think people just need to be a little bit more fair to him on that. So
sorry, like Andrew Wiggins back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe it's just a
Okay.
Canadian thing. Blame Canada,
That,
as South Park taught us
that's what it
so
is, eh?
many years ago. All right,
Okay.
Knicks.
The Knicks. Whew. All right.
Yeah.
OG
So
Anunoby, he's
Anunoby.
player option. So let's
Yep.
start there.
Yep. So that's the big one, right? Anunoby comes in. You've got the rest of this year in a player option. Now, a couple different things the Knicks could do. The Knicks could extend him right now, but it's a very small extension, only be about 2 years, $40 million. It's not much of a raise. It's only 2 years. That's very unlikely to happen. That's because of the extend and trade rules that limit how much you can extend a guy for when he's traded or in the immediate aftermath of trading him. So, by making this trade today, though, if they make, which is another reason why I think this gets done today, is June 30th, all those restrictions will lift. They will then be able to offer him a much larger extension than they could offer him today. And it would be an extension that probably approaches what he could make as a unrestricted free agent if he opts out of his player option. So that's a big thing to keep an eye on, especially if this trade gets done today, because then the Knicks would be able to extend him and that removes him going into free agency. Or if he, the last thing I'll say on that, if he goes into free agency, they'll have his full bird rights anyway, and then can work on it from there.
So that means that what we're probably going to hear is everybody's going to be talking free agency, and we're going to get that OG Anunoby extends with the Knicks, and people are going to go, "What extension? Yep. What are you talking about? Is this actually a signing that's happening before you're allowed to sign players? What's happening? When we're going to have to explain this, that's just if we're looking into the crystal ball, that's going to be 6 months from now. We're going to be having that conversation."
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And that's what Trevor's referencing is the wonky timing of free agency opens at 6 p.m. Eastern, but guys can still sign extensions all the way up to 11:59 p.m. Eastern on the 30th. So that's a little tricky spot. I like now people are talking about who the real Maple Jordan is. We're seeing Jamal Murray, SGA, Dylan Brooks is getting some love out there. So, Dylan Brooks is that's a take and a choice. So I respect it though. Throw it out there, right? Let's go. Rick Fox, Steve Nash, if we want to go back in the day.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So Anunoby fits right in with what the Knicks want. The Knicks have not been as good of a defensive team this year as they were in years past. So Tibbs will love him, right? He'll become immediately their best wing defender that they'll put on the other team's best offensive player on the wing. I think you don't make this trade without a sense of we can get him. It's also fair to mention he's a CAA client. I think the Knicks feel pretty good that they can get him re-signed there. So that becomes like a whole other subplot to this. So we'll see how that comes together as well with this part of this trade. So that's going to be a big thing as well. So there, and then Achua, nice big body. They're short on bigs right now, so that's another big they get to kind of put on the floor if the nights when Taj Gibson looks more old than wily veteran when he looks more like he's washed. So Achua can help there. Malachi Flynn, I don't know. He's not going to play. I mean, that's the reality. Clear up the guard rotation a little bit here. They had too many guys for too few minutes. So that's, a big part of this as well for the Knicks. So I like this trade for the Knicks. This is such a reasonable, sensible trade for both sides. Normally we're talking about team cleared a ton of cap money. Team is resetting around draft picks and young players and all those things. This is a trade. Yeah, the Knicks cleared out RJ Barrett's contract, but they're going to replace it with one for Quickly. For Anunoby. So now you're in a spot, and now you don't have to play Quickly too. You're just going to pay Anunoby, and that allows them to kind of keep moving forward that way. So it's not like they really cleaned up their cap sheet. I'll say this too. Knicks might have another move in them because they still have Evan Fournier's massive, basically pseudo expiring contract because they have a team option on that. So that is another move that they can make. Someone just asked, will Josh Hart start? No, Anunoby will start. He'll slide right in.
Anunoby start, and then Dante DiVincenzo at the 2, and off you go.
Yep. Yeah. The only change for the Knicks starting group will be Anunoby and for Barrett.
Did the market reset, or was it more that the Raptors didn't want anyone more than RJ? Well, I think the question is referring to that last year we were hearing 3 first for Anunoby. Is this a shift now where teams are, or is this a Raptors specific thing where, or do you think the draft capital is so hard to come by that teams are going to start shifting and say, okay, well, let's do, more value in terms of players coming back rather than picks?
Sure. Yeah, I think there's a couple things that happened here with this. And this is a really good question because it gives us a chance to explain this. I am talking extremely fast, faster than usual, because I have to go in like 3 minutes to do radio. So just just so everybody knows. There is a spot here where teams are not throwing in the 4 or 5 pick packages anymore. That's just not something they want to do. They want to be a little more conservative with draft picks. OG Anunoby is not a top tier all NBA level guy. He's just not that kind of player. So they were never going to get that kind of return, especially not with how things have reset. And teams need to be a little cautious with trading all those draft picks because if you're really expensive, you need them to rebuild out. The other part of this is I think the Raptors also had to come to terms with OG Anunoby did not grow into the player it looked like he might have when he originally signed this contract. It
Yeah.
looked like he was on this extreme upward trajectory. He is still a very good player, don't get me wrong, but he is more of a high-end 3-and-D wing than an on-ball scorer and playmaker. He never really developed that. He's a good shooter, but not a great shooter. He's a very good, but not a truly great defensive player of the year type defender. So I think this is just a realistic valuation. And anyone more than RJ. RJ's getting the headlines here because he's the bigger name and he's the bigger
Yeah.
contract. But
But
Emmanuel
quickly.
Quickley is a massive part of this trade for Toronto. They did not have a long-term option at point guard. Have not had one for basically since Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet left. I know it's only been a year, but Dennis Schroeder has played well, but he's really kind of a fill-in guy there for that. So getting Quickley now locks that down for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Quickly is a big piece here. Again, RJ Barrett, the bigger name. I think everybody is in a rush right now to say who won. And I think this is a pretty even trade
Yeah.
on both sides. I can see the rationale for both teams to do this. But in today's sports world, we all have to jump into this team won or that team won or whatever.
Hey, Trevor, we've got like 2,000 people watching right now this live stream. We
Heck yeah.
appreciate you guys so much on a Saturday afternoon jumping in here and watching. If you're new, if you're brand new to this and you just want to watch a live breakdown of this trade, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Join us.
Yeah.
We record Monday through Friday. Every Friday, we do live shows where we talk about live things. We take questions from the fans. We call them the front runners here. And those are our fans of the front office show. So, join us, here, subscribe to the channel. We are going to hopefully be extremely busy over the next month and a half or so with it breaking down NBA trades and all that stuff. This is our time of year. So, thanks so much for everybody joining in to watch us break it down. We'll probably get into more detail on this on our show on Monday and just really kind of, really dive in. More details will probably come out in the next little bit. But yeah, this has been, just a monster trade coming in out of nowhere on December 30th.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a monstrous trade. It's a huge trade. The
I like the
question
one that just came in. Front office Saturday.
That's right. Front office Saturday. Let's go. All the better that was brought on by a trade. Thank goodness OG didn't go west. Sincerely, a Lakers fan. Somebody asked about Emmanuel Quickley. Will the Raptors lose him? Again, this is the kind of thing where you're having those discussions ahead of time and you're saying, hey, what's it going to take? And you have to feel comfortable with that situation if you're going to make this trade.
Yeah, and he's restricted, so they control the process. If it gets completely out of bounds and crazy, they can walk away from it. If a team starts throwing him a max deal, I don't think he'll get that. But if reportedly he wanted about 4 years, $100 million from the Knicks. I think for the Raptors, with where they're headed, with kind of resetting things, that probably makes a lot of sense for them to do something like that. Where maybe for the Knicks, with Jalen Brunson already in place, that maybe didn't make as much sense. So I think this is one where that could be, something that they definitely look at doing. So, really, there's just a lot of layers to this because you've got the immediate impacts. You've got what does it look like contractually for a few of these guys in
Mhm.
this deal. Precious Achiuwa and Malachi Flynn can both be restricted free agents too this summer. That's 3 guys from the same draft class all moving in the same trade. So Flynn, again, I think that's more of a throw-in, but Achiuwa could be somebody the Knicks could get a lot of use out of, especially as another big man to throw in the mix with Randall Hartenstein and what's really been Taj Gibson since Mitchell Robinson went down. So
Sure.
that's a sneaky little part of this on the Knicks side too. But yeah, this is a trade where we're not going to know for a while how this looks for both teams involved. But right now on its face, this looks like your classic win-win trade that just made a ton of sense for both teams, and especially where nobody was tearing it down, throwing young picks and players. Either way, this was just a really nice balanced trade.
Yep, indeed, between 2 teams that are suing each other right now, but somehow, some way they found a way
That
to
part is
get it
just
done.
so crazy to me
It's
that they're
crazy.
in the middle of a lawsuit against each other, and it's just there. So that's crazy. Yeah. This guy just said they're excited about bringing RJ home. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, man,
that's part of it too.
he's a they love him, in Canada. So I'm super excited for that part of it too. And I think it was Ian Begley tweeted, sources say RJ Barrett never wanted to leave New York, but if he was going to go anywhere, he wanted to go to Toronto. So that's good for him for landing somewhere. So let's see. Like I said, the Knicks still have that Fournier contract, and I gotta believe they're not going to just go.
Yeah.
Maybe they go into next summer, they pick up the option and use him in a trade next summer. But I gotta believe they're going to use that Fournier deal some way to make something happen at some point. So lot of stuff still to come, probably from the Knicks, and quite frankly, probably from the Raptors, because I would not close the book on a Siakam trade. I think there is still a chance a Siakam trade happens.
Let's go. February 8th is the trade deadline. We got plenty of time for more trade action around the NBA. Gosh, I hope this is a sign of things to come, Keith. This is a great trade to come out of nowhere. Hit us like the RKO. Had a great time breaking this thing down with you. Now, I know you've got to run. You got to go do radio. So we're going to jump off here. But once again, anybody who's new, haven't subscribed to the channel yet, hit that subscribe button. We are going to be breaking down all of the deals, all of the rumors heading all the way up until that February 8th trade deadline. So once again, subscribe. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on a Saturday. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.